Hello, Glenn here. I've always wanted to build slab tables. That's why I built the slab flattening jig, that router sled. Well, let's do that. Let's work on this walnut coffee table. But before I do, there's someone I would like you to meet. I have a couple of dogs. Bowie, who is not appearing in this picture, and this fellow, George. George is the barkier one, so when you hear a dog barking in this video and others, it's probably this guy. Hi, Glenn here, the People's Carpenter. So a little while ago on this channel I built this router sled for flattening slabs, and I put this walnut slab on there, and over the last day, was it yesterday? It was yesterday or the day before. It was very recent. And I'm inside at the moment working on an assignment for my psychology degree that I'm working towards. And every now and then, for a break, I'm just popping out here and doing one or two more passes. I'm getting better at this, and it's actually really quite a satisfying task. I'm just about there in terms of having both sides flat. I've got maybe 3 or 4 more passes to do on this side, which is the top side. It's going to be a walnut slab coffee table, but not a well, I suppose it will be a fairly modern thing, but not one with modern metal legs, but rather with very old school wooden legs that stick through the body. Stay tuned, let's see how I do that. Right, so I've got this down to about 48 mils thick, which is going to be more or less my final thickness. The sanding that I do by hand now, well, with my handheld sander, won't really take that down noticeably. Man, it was, so it wasn't a uniform thickness before. There were all sorts of abnormalities coming out of this thing, but now that I've got everything down to a basically flat surface on either side, I had to remove a lot because some of the peaks were just over 100 millimeters thick. Not all of them, of course, but it produced a lot of waste, and that's just going to be a fact of life with a router slab if you're doing any serious removal, which is all the more motivation for me to rig up a dust hose from the place where my router sled is to my dust extractor. Otherwise, I'll have to do lots of tidying up. But let's get this looking a bit smoother. Okay, so I am going to have to go back to the router sled. You can see these lines across the surface where there's been a little bit of tearing. Now that I'm getting a bit better at using, and therefore more confident at using the router setup, and now that it's a much flatter surface to begin with, so I won't have to take very much off, I'm going to go back to using that larger bit. Well, that has done it. Those snail trail lines are gone. I just took a very shallow pass, maybe maybe a millimeter, if that, and I used this bit here, which has 3 carbide teeth. It's a type of bit often sold as a flattening bit. What I had been using, because if you watch my previous video when I set up the router sled, I tried that first, but I was under the misapprehension that I would have to turn the speed down a fair bit because it was such a large bit. And it was sort of juddering and my router was having a hard time. So I instead put this in, which is called the bottom cleaning bit. Now that does work, like it does a fine job. If that's what you've got, then by all means use it and you'll get the job done and it will be okay. But it doesn't do as good a job as this bit. After I put this in, I decided, it's still doing a bit too much work here, it seems difficult, so I turned the speed up and then it started doing a much better job. So what I did just now is I put this bit in and also turned the speed up more than it was before and did a much better job. Not as good as this looks. I've done a bit of sanding now, but I'm happy with that. So I will continue to sand the whole thing down to 80 grit on both sides, and then I'll start looking at what I've got in front of me and how I'm going to chop bits off and do this and that and the other thing. So this live edge here has some soft rotted spots on the surface. So with my coarse sandpaper, I'm just basically gouging through all of that until I get to the sound wood behind it. Now, to get an idea what a wood is going to look like under a finish, a somewhat natural finish, you can just, there's a helicopter over here, my dog is going to go nuts, there he goes. You can just put some white spirits on it because it will dry off very quickly. Yeah, I mean, white's a nice word, isn't it? Dries off so quickly. I'm getting my phone camera out to take a photo before it dries. I might even put a bit more on. There are lots of bug holes in there. Nothing live, I'm pretty confident of that. But I have to think what I'm going to do about those. I should probably fill them with what? I have options. I just don't know which one to use yet. So my order of operations here is going to be, first of all, big shaping, like deciding on the major geometry of these edges, some of which are not desirable in their current shape. Then I will do any filling that I need to do, and there'll be some of that, and then I'll move on to the legs. So for the ends, I don't want it like that. I'm happy for that. You know, some cut edges are okay, because I'm going to be cutting some edges myself. So what I would like, I think, is for the edges to be slightly concave. Which will also cut out these splits at the end, although there may still be some when I'm done. I'll assess that at the time. Now cutting that would be tricky. It will be tricky. If I had a super powerful jigsaw, because that is too much for an ordinary jigsaw, certainly too much for mine. I could do that, but I don't have a super powerful jigsaw. So I'm still thinking about what might be the best way to do that. It could be that ultimately what I would do is come up with an MDF template and then route the shape of that. I'll need to go and let my dog into the house. But first of all, I'll cut the bulk of that off with a circular saw. I should actually use some hand tools here. What I will do is make a series of cuts. Just out of curiosity, I'm wondering how my jigsaw would handle these cuts. I'll try it just because you should want to know these things. Let's see how we go. See, that's actually not bad. I expected it to be far more difficult than that. And if I can do that, maybe I can just do this. Well, what do you know? I underestimated my tools. And here was me all ready to do this by hand, which would have been good for me. Okay. Now what to do about this? I mean, I could just leave... no. I mean, there is a context in which I suppose chainsaw lines might work, but not there and not on this, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to do something very simple like this, and it won't be quite as jarring as you might think because of what I'm planning on doing on the underside, so I'll do this. Okay, well, it's done now. All right. Okay, yep. A little bit happier with that. That's not necessarily the shape I would ideally have chosen, but those cuts were there and I just had to do something about that. Right, let's flip it over and I'll explain what I'm going to do on the other side. So I'm going to shape this in a way that kind of makes fake live edge, just because I think it'll look and feel a bit better. I won't be doing it with this, but I'm going to use the 45-degree bevel bit just to remove the first amount of material, and then I'll refine it further. Alright, so that's just taking the edge off it, and I'm going to do the rest with this. I'm going to use an angle grinder, not my good angle grinder, but perfectly good one. And that's not a grinding disc, that's what's called a flap disc, which is a whole lot of sheets of very coarse sandpaper attached around a wheel. And I don't think it was designed, no, I know it wasn't designed for work on wood. It was designed for flattening welding blobs and lines on metal, but it is very good for carving away at wood. And that's what I'm going to use. Now, you've just got to wear a mask. This sends dust flying, and there's no way to attach any sort of dust extraction to it. Okay, now you know that's not natural, but it sure looks natural. You might say, why did you leave a bump there? There wasn't a knot or a branch or anything there. I know, but nobody else knows that. It looks like there was. So I can see a couple of lines still remaining. I'll do the final sand on that when I approach the end and make everything nice and tidy. But that's the approach I'm taking. Other than the ends, I'm happy for the ends to look as though they were cut. But and there's another one down here. Don't know if you can see that. But any cut spots along the side, well, it really is just that other one that I'll worry about. The other parts I'm fine with. I will grind away and make it look like there is a bit of live edge there. Now you can kind of tell there's not, because on the live edge there's the paler sapwood and there isn't any here, but it still looks nice. Well, there's that other cut section that I made look a bit more natural. I actually prefer, the other one looks good, but this one looks even better, I think. I'll show you a close-up of it. Okay, I'm going to bring this video to a close. In the next one, I will fill holes, and I have a solution in mind for that. I've already got some of the materials I need, but I need one more thing. Then I will do the legs. The legs are going to be fun. They're going to be a tapered tenon style leg that pokes through the top. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to bust out some new tools that I've got. Then I will just do the fine sanding and then put a finish on. I haven't decided on a finish yet, but I will do that shortly. I've got several in mind. So yeah, that will be happening soon. Come back and check on my progress then. In the meantime, look, go ahead, buy a t-shirt, and thank you so much for watching. I am still trying to build up the number of viewers and the hours that they have watched so that I can monetize this channel. I need to monetize some things because some other things are not going so well, and I may mention that in an upcoming talk. But until next time, take care.